I'm Eric Loy, and welcome to Loy Interviews. On this podcast, we talk with folks from the VTuber community on their channels, their talents, their stories, where they come from, and their plans for the future. ArmisVT joins me. Hi.
Hello.
Hey, thank you so much for coming on. Please introduce yourself to everybody.
Hello, I am ArmisVT. I am a voidling VTuber. I indulge in horror, tell stories, and stream on Twitch. I am considering expanding to other websites, but for now, that's where I am.
Yeah, so thanks so much for coming on. I do appreciate it. And for the stories, are they your own stories, or are you reading fiction?
These are my own, though I have had requests from people to read other content.
So do you write stories?
Yes.
How long have you been doing that?
Since I was like 14. Kind of woke up out of a coma and just decided, you know what? I need to write stuff down.
Well, you got me beat. I've got things running around my head. I can't seem to actually put on the paper or type into the machine. Somebody might actually like that, but my skull's too thick for it to come out. So, congratulations on that. Were you able to show it to other people right away, or was it something that you kind of kept in a folder at home?
Some of my ideas I've shown to people right away.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm currently working on a video for Armis. It's going to be a lore video that I plan on uploading to YouTube.
Ooh. So, given your background, I imagine it's going to be, full of stuff.
Yeah. I'm reaching out to some artists for pieces and trying to get some support for it.
Cool. That's excellent. Does all your stories usually stay in the horror genre?
No. Some of them linger into dark fantasy, some into sci-fi, some into flat-out high fantasy, and so on. It really just depends on what I'm feeling for.
So, when you do get an idea, how does it come to you? Is it a lightning flash? Is it something that shows up in your toasted oatmeal or something? Well, how does it come up?
Piecemeal thought, actually.
Piecemeal?
Sometimes I'll just be coming up with small ideas and everything, and eventually over time they start to amalgamate into something that I end up creating altogether. Sometimes with some influence, depending on the media that I indulge, like Voidlings, for instance.
Yeah.
I was inspired by quite a few things growing up. My grandfather was into old westerns. My grandmother was into a lot of the cop shows and everything. My mother, a horror indulger. Just all those aspects started to come together. And then one night after a breakup, I listened to Beautiful Monster, and before you know it, Armis was born.
Inspiration comes from everywhere. You just gotta be receptive to it. And then once you get the inspiration, you have to have enough work ethic to actually follow up on it. That's been my problem. I can be inspired all you want, but you're not running electricity through petrified wood. It ain't going from there.
It always starts with a small step.
Yeah, and I don't even hardly want to do that most of the time. But have you been published yet?
Not yet. I am still working on my book.
Yeah, is it a labor of love, or is it still a labor at this point?
It is a labor of love.
Yeah.
The Beast of Stories.
Yeah.
Is what it's called.
Oh. Is it going to be a collection of stories, or is it going to be one that ties everything together?
It's going to be a collection of stories that do actually tie together. The first one opening with the first ever protagonist I ever wrote, a snow elf named Vendrick Callaghan.
And so they're all gonna. I'm not gonna ask for everything that's involved in it, but do you have a certain order that the stories have to be in, or did they come to you in that order, or have you had to move it around as you went along?
Surprisingly, they all just kind of fell sequentially into order when I started to think it all up.
Huh?
The only other ones that really were just kind of wild cards were like the Tales of Bowie. Um, let's see. Uh, and the Tales of the Underdark.
Mm. So did they involve kind of side, not necessarily direct with the main um, jib of the entire book, or were they kind of side stories to it?
Um, I would say the Tales of Bowie were the side stories.
Mm.
Um, the Underdark tale, however, was an origin story.
Oh, yeah.
That
So
one started to go into how the whole Beast of Stories came to be and the conflicts surrounding them, and coincidentally was the first instance of a voidling that I created, being Quinlan Salas,
now,
a former mage who was stripped of his magic, and unfortunately, because of a curse due to being a mage, he was enveloped but still conscious enough to pick himself up, and he became something else. He wasn't just some modern day mage from Texas. He was a monster after the fact.
mm,
And that kind of followed into the other two voidlings, being Kira, who is the aunt to one of the leaders, who has been out to stop every instance of a mage ever falling to that point. And then there's Armis, who formerly was a part of that organization, who became so frustrated with it, having grown up in the Great Depression
mm,
and dealing with a lot of the living situation that came with African Americans dealing with that
right.
side of the world,
Yeah.
being separated from his family and forced into a life where he was a living weapon who was hunting creatures in America,
Mm.
and they had pushed their limits with him. So he decided, screw this organization, I'm going and I am dealing with this myself.
Oh man. So these all sound like characters that you had a general idea about, and then they kind of grew almost organically afterwards.
hmm
Did you have to go back and rewrite things when you discovered more and think more about these characters as you went along?
Not as frequently as you might think.
Mm.
A lot of them were pretty set in stone as far as their roles were like coming to be.
Hmm. Yeah, so you had them pretty much sketched out before you started writing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But have they every once in a while surprised you?
In some ways, yes.
Mm.
When it came to like Quinlan, for instance, he was the one who I experimented a fair bit with before I started to hit the page. I wanted to get all of the details down. What turned this man into a killer? What had him become basically a renegade
Mm.
to the Council of Nine? What had him betray the people who he called family, killing aunts, uncles, trying to go after Siddhartha of all people, who was the leader of this organization, and then later fighting his own father in the very beginning of this book, and having so many people who he used to work with coming after him. And I kind of took a little inspiration from Star Wars in that instance.
Well, you can. And then Star Wars took some inspiration from a lot of other people too. So there you go.
Yeah.
And so it's not directly distributed, but I've always found it fascinating when people develop characters and what they do with them. And it sounds to me like you had these really planned out beforehand, and you're going to stick with it. Is there any real room for much expansion to these characters down the line?
Down the line, yes.
Mm.
There are, because of what the Beast of Stories is, there's a lot of possibility. Every cell that resides within this beast is an alternate story.
Mm.
Every instance could possibly have a deviation, an alteration, and an expansion that goes on quite literally forever if I ever got popular enough to have people just do fan writings. And that kind of thing is going to turn into its own expose.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, people will do whatever they want at that point with the characters. And so now you've been able to keep this going pretty much in a straight line, other than those other two stories. Um, has there been a point where you wanted to jump ahead, or have you had to keep yourself in line while doing it?
Mm, there was an instance, yes. It was around the time when I started the Rebellion storyline,
Hmm.
where my Norse hero had a descendant named Arcade, and we were going to tackle his, well, rather, I wanted to tackle his story. And I almost would have jumped to that point, but I realized I was still trying to get the ending for this setup.
You don't want to short shrift it. Yeah. I mean, you come this far and you set everything up. You don't want to toss it aside and say, and they all lived happily ever after. Now, next chapter.
I wish it was a happily ever after for that character.
Uh,
Llewell suffers so much throughout his story. I mean, this man, he was a trip, and writing about a Norse character like him was amazing.
so,
From his beginnings as a cursed kid all the way to his adulthood, when he just realized all I needed was some friends that could actually carry me through here. I'm glad that I had each and every one of you. And then he just dies, unfortunately.
with these
Just
characters, yeah, with these dick characters and different backgrounds, how much research did you have to do to set them up, or did they all come straight from your mind?
I did a fair bit of research. For my very first story, I had to experiment with Celtic mythology and learning about the many characters involved with it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, then I also had to indulge in learning about physics because I was not writing about the same kind of planet that we were on
Ah,
in that very same story.
yeah, yeah. That's one thing
I had to write about rather, try to come to terms with writing about numerous mythologies intermingling on this planet for this story in the very first one.
Wow. Yeah, you didn't exactly pick a low hurdle to start with, did you?
Nope. And for someone who was 14 coming out of a coma, that was a lot to tackle all at once. But when when I was recovering and everything, that was it was an adventure all its own.
Yeah, I bet. And having all these things kind of come to you after that, um, did you ever, once you started, having these ideas come to you in your head, did you ever sit and think, why am I learning about this now?
Honestly, no. I was actually so frustrated with my schooling
Uh,
that I felt like it was a better usage of my time.
ah, yeah. So it was, it was a diversion, but one that you happily accepted.
Yes.
Okay, I can understand that. I can definitely understand that. Uh, at some points, and
Yeah.
when the schooling just there for some people, schooling just gets boring, and um, if the schooling does not grab the kid and bring them into it, it's very going to be very tough to teach them things.
In my case, it was a lot of repetition.
Yeah.
The tests at the time, the assignments, the engagement, it felt like over the years past like elementary school, it was always the same thing. We were just revisiting the same topics they had already taught us from like grades first through sixth.
Oh yeah. Well, we had that in the '70s where we had for every year we had social studies is what we called it. I don't know, I guess they call it different. That's U.S. history or whatever. But it always ended on the Civil War every time.
Yeah.
We didn't know anything about what had
In,
happened in the 1870s until later. Yeah.
yeah. And kind of in a similar boat there, that's what they were teaching us. Only we ended up getting around to like, I believe it was
About when?
I'd say the Cold War and everything, and
Oh,
eventually they stopped.
well, at least you got a lot further than we were. We were in the Cold War.
Yeah.
We were creating that history, youngster. But yeah, we it wasn't until we got finally into junior high that we had something after 1900, and we're like, oh hey, there was history after 1900. I didn't realize any of that happened. Um, when someone is doing a project like you're doing, how important is it to have the curiosity to do the research?
If you're creative enough, you can skip that step. But what you also have to keep in mind is that can come with a cost of the caveats that you create.
Mm.
Creating everything from a basis alone can very much open the door to a lot of criticism and suspension of disbelief. And sometimes having roots isn't always a bad thing.
Yeah, yeah,
Personally, I find there is great value in being able to study these things.
yeah.
But I also see the strengths in being able to build everything entirely on your own with your own logic. I mean, some stories, they can have it happen. I mean, never ending story.
Right, right, and
Or any of these like young adult novels that are floating around nowadays, the the roots for them are entirely bizarre. I mean, we've seen it with like what the Hunger Games. We
yeah,
saw it with uh, what was it? What was that
Twilight.
other one that started with a D? I think it was.
Duh, Hunger Games.
Yeah,
Like,
I know the Hunger Games.
yes.
I meant like they had like a bunch of walls. All these kids were trapped in it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Divergent?
That's
I
right.
don't
It's
know.
Divergent. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it was something along those lines. The roots for them are bizarre
yeah,
and the creativity is pretty high all the same.
yeah.
But
But
you can see where there's like a lot of that give and take with people criticizing it or people accepting it one way or another.
but
And you see that with a lot of stories nowadays.
well, there's you. It depends on how far you're willing to suspend your beliefs.
Mhm.
If you're talking about and you talk about different levels of fantasy stories, high fantasy, and if you're talking about a magical kingdom with magical blah 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 blah, you have carte blanche. You do whatever you want, and I mean,
Mhm.
as long as it makes a little bit of sense, and it'll work. But if you're doing something that's like a steampunk, or something that takes uh, history in actual history into account, you better get that right, or otherwise it's not going to be put on a very balanced footing in the story. Like you said, it's going to be tough to keep people involved in it.
And in a lot of cases, there's a lot of back and forth with it. Because, I mean, like, for instance, DC.
Mhm.
Everything about them is back and forth with it. And they play with a lot of these rules. Hermeticism plays one of the biggest ones, especially if you've paid attention to Sandman.
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. I was a big DC kid for a long time. Uh, and
I've been back and forth with it.
I enjoyed a lot of the stuff, especially the multi-universe stuff. I always liked that. But again, you're talking about suspending a lot of belief in getting that to start with. Um,
Mhm.
and you gotta imagine that there was a Krypton and somebody came from somebody got out at the last second, and then you find out two people got out at the last second, and a whole city got out at the last second. It goes on and on. Um, and go from there. Um,
And
but
don't forget, there was a constant or a god figure who once went up to the sun and whispered to it that it needed to die.
yeah,
Why? Because their depression was so much they felt that the sun needed to just go and destroy Krypton
yeah,
to begin the story.
yeah, yeah. It's and again, you're talking about concepts that are so far past people that you want to make it to the point where it's still fantastical, but you don't want to lose people on the way too.
Yep.
Um, if people are like, okay, You're just pulling that out of your, sack of goodies to to cover yourself. It was like on the old Xena series. It was like whenever they had a plot problem, they said a wizard did it. Okay,
Yeah,
well that covered it.
I remember watching some of the old Xena episodes. That was a pretty common like resolution for them.
Yes, it was. Where were they blonde in this episode and brunette? Oh, wizard hit him. That's what happened. Oh, okay. Can't argue with that. So with you and VTubing, how did that come about? And how and were you able to jump into it right away and enjoy yourself?
At the time, no. VTubing began for me at a little bit of a tumultuous period.
Mm.
I wanted to get involved with it when it was first started. I was so interested with the concept of being able to put my voice through a character and experiment with ideas.
Yeah.
But at the time, I had been with someone who was kind of telling me to not do it
Mm-hmm.
just for a long time. And eventually I was just like, screw it. I will try and come up with something. Despite their disappointment, and eventually when the two of us split, I went along with my idea and I pushed and committed. After a month, I got affiliate, and
Yeah.
then I would have an off and on period dealing with certain issues that were coming into light in real life.
Yeah.
I was trying to maintain streaming, and it's been sputtering in and out, but I've been doing my best to try and maintain things and get back into the rhythm.
Mm.
This year, I am fully intending to keep pushing while also dealing with work and things in real life.
Oh yeah, and real life is just plain going to get in the way of things, and
Yeah.
I'm dealing with that myself with a few things, and makes it tough for me to schedule sometimes, and or have to last second say, oh, I can't do this, gonna do it some other time, but that's the way the ball bounces. You have to play the cards as you get them, and sometimes you don't get them until late, and go with it that way. But for you
Yeah.
being as creative a person as you are, do you find it tough to commit yourself to a mundane schedule?
I I don't.
Mm.
I'm fully willing to conform to a schedule as long as I'm able to maintain, you know, the key important things around me.
Mm.
Because if I can't do that, then frankly, it will end up becoming an issue later on,
Mm.
and there won't be any progress made if I'm having to do a lot of catch up
Yeah.
if things start to fall apart. I
Yeah.
had it happen quite a few times in the past
Mm. Has it
with
been?
certain
Yeah.
jobs, and
Oh,
then
oh yeah, jobs. Jobs, absolutely. That happens. That happens
mm,
quite a bit, and I can safely tell you that it doesn't get any better when you get older. Sometimes it happens even
yeah,
more. But the whole point of doing it for a lot of folks is as an escape for VTubing. Do you consider VTubing an escape for you, or do you see it more as another way to be creative?
I'd say a combination of both
Mm.
because I do want to try my best to be as creative as possible with it and also just have fun.
Mm.
I want to be able to tell stories, to sometimes even stream like my little sessions when I'm DMing D&D or other tabletop games, or
Yeah.
messing around in certain video games and experimenting with the lore around me.
I can imagine you as a DM for the D&D, and so when you are doing the DM stuff,
Mhm.
are they super lore complicated, um, long lasting campaigns? Um, do you put as much energy into that as you do your stories, or is it a story?
I try to. I Well, I try not to be super ultra complicated with it. I do like to feed my feed my players bits and pieces and let them discover the connections on their own. And I haven't had issue with that. There is one group, however, of a lot of the newbies that I am trying to be very patient with and take my time piecemealing things, even though they have so many questions and they're missing so many key things.
You're being
But
very kind.
that just comes with the huh?
You're being very kind with them.
Yeah.
I just say there's a lot of DMs that would say you're asking too many questions. Roll some dice. And
Yeah. I have been known as being the forgiving kind of DM. I do try to like DM for people and give them an experience, even if they're new, like experts and so on and so forth. I mean, back when I was like regularly visiting the hospital, I used to DM for kids
ah,
when I had the chance.
that's cool.
I would DM a game called Mouse Ritter, which I would put them through a similar story to shoot, what was that game called? Mm,
Hmm.
there was a game I saw at one point that I thought had such an interesting story. It was called Small Saga, I believe it was.
Oh,
I would sometimes play that story out for them,
okay.
and they fell in love with it.
Well, that's. I mean, you're being the Pied Piper there. You're showing people how they can be creative and enjoy that creativity. And I when I was you know 15, 16, 17, I enjoyed playing Dungeons and Dragons. Of course, when we did it, it was one book. It wasn't an entire library. It was you had certain classes and you didn't have super combined things. It was very cut and paste, but it was still a lot of fun back then. In the
Back in the
caveman
White
age.
Pages days.
Yes, in the caveman days. It was
I know exactly what you're talking about.
yeah. And when the worst thing we'd have in the dungeons was the gelatinous cube. That's what was chasing us most of the time. Try to run through
Yeah.
the gelatinous cube. That didn't work. Never. Um,
Yep.
yeah. Yep. Lost your armor again. But we always had people who would try to make the DM's life just unbearable. Have you had that situation where they've tried to just mess up everything for you as the DM?
Mm, I haven't had someone who did it purposely.
Hmm.
I have had someone who was like, well, actually, no, there was one time. A former DM for another campaign I was a part of.
Oh,
They they had me end up DMing for them later with another group and everything. And they went out of their way to like disable or even just be a detriment to the party as well as the campaign itself because they were refusing to really participate. And a lot of it came out to them being jealous of my DM style, which I
oh,
learned later on. And
ah,
that was the most upsetting part because they thought I was upstaging them
ah,
because I did a continuation for their campaign.
no.
They
That's
ended us on a Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time style ending. So I decided I'm giving us a Majora's Mask one. And they took offense to that.
no. Oh, I would have always wanted to try that, but I don't know if I'd have the patience to deal with the other people. I said, "You're not doing it right. Now you guys roll a dice and you're dead. Pick up my stuff, go
Well,
home."
in my case, I use a pretty simple set of rules depending on the tabletop RPG that I'm running,
Yeah.
whether it be like a game like Savage Worlds, or recently I just got a new game called Vagabond, which has a rather simple rule set with pretty engaging mechanics to it
Mhm.
without being overly, well, like bared down with like crunchy details and everything.
Yeah.
And this paired with like what I run being a virtual tabletop, it narrows down a lot of the issues so that you're not having as many complications along the way.
Mm. Well, the one time I tried to come up with some idea, I had where somebody would if they touched the knob for the door, they were transported inside a dragon. And they didn't know until they hacked out of it that it was a dead dragon.
I had my players wake up in hell, and I told them, try to get out. And they began this whole journey. It was like Dante's Inferno.
Yes.
Just them getting out from this underground prison, crawling their way up, and riding these nightmares through the wastelands and encountering their pasts, dealing with these chaotic cultists and everything along the way.
Yeah.
And eventually, when they reached this temple, there was a Baylord just standing there, terrifying them. And my players were losing their minds until they realized, oh, this is just a statue. A statue in waiting.
Yeah.
The Baylor was petrified.
Ah.
So they weren't aware that as soon as they activated the mechanism so they could escape, that Baylor was going to break free.
Yes. we had just the basic stuff, basic traps and things. One of the things we did to really tick off our DM was carry a dead body with us. And we would throw them into the rooms ahead of us because he always set traps like that. So we'd throw the body in the room, set off the traps, and just walk in.
I mean, that's creative. It's better than using the 10-foot pole.
Oh, yeah, yeah. By the way, we've got a 10-foot pole. Nope. Then they said, well, your dead body falls apart. Okay, we'll use that dead body over there then.
Oh. The 10-foot pole was such an abused tactic to get around mimics and everything.
Oh yeah, yeah. It was, but if you offer it to them, they're going to take it. That's you just don't give them the opportunity to use it. That's all. Your 10-foot pole is disintegrated. How? A wizard did
it. Oh, I could be way worse. Sometimes if my players were way too good for the time being,
yeah,
if they were min-maxing,
yes,
I would just toss in a rust beast
and
just let them try to attack that.
No,
okay.
I could hear them scream.
Say goodbye to your equipment.
I could hear them screaming.
Yeah.
No.
Or if I had a wizard or something, or some kind of fragile class that had a lot of power to them because the user min-maxed them, I would toss in a quickling. Just things that I know are creative, but still within the binds of the rules.
Yeah. And
that's always been one of my mainstays. If you're going to get creative, the DM has a right to get creative with you.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And you could dance with them all you want, but it's the DM that's got the music. They just change the tune. And then you're in trouble if they know what you're doing. So with the background of DMing in D&D, are there games that you play online that create that same sort of atmosphere for you? Or is there any game that you know of that really does capture the D&D type thing?
I mean, I won't say Baldur's Gate 3 is the best version of it. It's definitely close, or at least it references some of the D&D rules when you play it.
Yeah.
But I'd say a mainstay that I played a lot that had that element to it was Pathfinder, being Wrath of the Righteous or Kingmaker. Either of those two games, they're based off of 3.5 D&D. So
okay, yeah.
Make of that what you will from experience.
Yeah, yeah.
But it was a lot of math and a whole lot of crazy stuff. And because of it being organized into a video game format, you definitely don't have to do as much of the effort. So it makes the game playable for virtually anyone.
Yeah. You don't have to have a Big Blue to calculate what was going on.
Exactly. Everything is at your fingertips, and you don't got to worry. You just got to select whatever you want and play it however you want.
That's right.
Hell, they'll even let you adjust the difficulty as you're playing if you want to go normal, hard, or easy.
Ooh, I'm facing somebody who's really bad. Easy now. Well, we had back in the old Commodore 64 days, which I had and loved. We had the gold box D&D games, which allowed you to have a group of 6 adventurers, and you went through an entire set. And for the time, it was wonderful. It really did capture a lot of the original D&D series. The problem with it was it allowed you to max your characters and then keep playing. Start over again with
At max power.
yes, level 15 fighter slash um, fighter slash cleric. They're both, and they're both the highest possibly. And all of the stuff that you had gotten from the first game, you got to keep as well. So it was, and I didn't say I didn't play it a billion times, but I did. And it was, and each time I enjoyed myself with it. But nowadays, it seems like there's so many games that, I mean, the entire RPG has to bow down to D&D originally, don't you think?
In some ways, yes.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of descending games that use the same like system,
Mhm.
being D20, of course.
Yeah.
But I have started to appreciate that other games have started to take a rise and use their mechanics in ways to help inspire others.
Mm.
Like World of Darkness being like Mage the Awakening, Werewolf the Apocalypse, Vampire the Masquerade, and all that. They use a dice system called shoot. It's the wow, I am really drawing a blank here.
That's okay. That's okay. And by dice system, do you mean the actual rolling of the dice or the creating the characters?
The actual rolling of the dice.
Mm.
So like with D&D, they use a D20.
Right.
In World of Darkness, they use a dice pool system, and they would throw D10s. And depending on how high they were, sometimes you would need to get at least like a 6 or above. And with however many you got in a successful ratio, you add that and your skill, and that is considered your success, depending on what the DM calls for.
Right.
That was a system that I came to like. I also came to like the scaling dice system with Savage Worlds, where as you level up your character, you can put points into a certain die connected to whatever ability or skill you have.
Oh, that makes sense.
And it'll go from a D6 all the way up to like a D12 +1, +2, +3, or +4.
Oh.
And it simplified a lot of that system to be used for newbie players.
Well, that actually
which I felt was a lot easier than D&D.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense actually when you think
Yeah.
that way. I knew though with the old computers, and I dabbled in, well, I enjoyed programming the old Commodore 64 in its version of computer programming back then, and the random number type of generation was good only up to a certain point because the random numbers in those computers weren't really random. They had a certain number they would go down. They had a pattern after a while. So if you did something that had so many different random numbers in it, you have a really good chance of running into the same type of outcome every time.
So you could play the system?
Yeah. Or the system will play itself. In this case, I had a game that would actually play itself. It was a pro wrestling game where I would just put in the 2 athletes, and it would have a text of how the match went. But the problem was, since it didn't have its own real number system, I would come up with the same finish most of the time because it wouldn't actually be random, which kind of kicked the whole thing in the back. But I imagine that was a big problem early on with these games. This sounds like what you're talking about kind of gets around that problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. and used it that way.
Depending on the game that you play, it can definitely have its range.
Yeah.
I've experimented with a lot of dice systems. Hell, Warhammer 40K has its own tabletop games outside of the wargaming,
Yeah.
and those ones they use a D100.
Oh yeah. I've seen those. Basically, it's just round.
Yeah, that or you get the two D100 dice, which are the one that has like two double digits on it, and then the other one through 9.
Yeah.
Or rather, it's a 10-sided dice.
Yeah.
And when you're rolling them, if one lands on the 0, then that's technically the extra 10 that goes into 100 and everything.
Yep.
And you go from there.
Yeah.
Or, and well, rather, in addition, the rules for like the Warhammer 40K games or Warhammer in general, you always want to roll low.
Oh, not high, but low.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. It gives
That's
us
what
with bad luck a chance. gives
Yeah,
us
people with bad luck rolling dice, this is your game.
those of us who know what a natural one is. One. Yep, hurt myself again. So for you, what would you like to put together a story game with one of your stories? Some sort of a novel type of game where you go through. Would you be up for writing something like that?
One day, yes.
Mm.
I would love to create my own game
Visual
like that.
novel type thing. Yeah, and that would I imagine that's going to be right up your alley by the time you're done here. You'll have that all set up and ready to go. Um, it's pretty amazing. It's amazing to see what you're able to do with that creativity of yours in this field, in this general area, going all the way from DMing to writing your own stuff and to coming on and being a VTuber. Um, that's really quite a wide range of what you're able to do. Do you have have you put a deadline on yourself for when you want the book done?
I haven't yet, but that's mostly because I've just had so many wild cards tossed my way.
Mm.
I didn't want to create an unreal expectation for myself.
Yeah.
Because if I do, then I know I'm just going to stress myself out and not get anywhere if I'm constantly looking at a deadline that's nearing and nearing and nearing, and I'm nowhere close to finishing.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that. When you start getting the stress on it, it puts the pressure on the brain to come up with something, and it doesn't flow as naturally.
Yeah, like when I did try that once, and before I knew it, that's when I became an uncle. And that threw everything
Yeah.
right out the window.
Oh yeah, yeah. The old uncle stuff and eventually the grandpa stuff does throw a lot of things out the window. I'm lucky enough to be a double grandpa now. I'm two grandpas, so I get to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's fun. But so do you have any goals as far as VTubing for this next year?
I'm hoping to get deeper into VTubing. I am trying to push to get some more money scrounged up so that I can upgrade my stuff, get further into things, and maybe even push into voice acting. I've started to get into certain projects. I mean, just yesterday, someone asked me to voice their god in their little series.
Well, you do have a good voice.
Was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very what's the right word I'm trying to use? Distinct voice, and it sounds like you're able to project without putting a whole lot of effort into it, which is good.
I do try.
That's the thing. You don't have to try too much because it's all kind of automatic, and that means there's a lot of people who don't have that type of stage voice where they'll talk, but they'll always talk really down low, and you don't really understand what they're saying. That type of thing. But there are other folks who automatically talk up higher in their throat and push the words out without even trying. And it sounds like you've got that type of voice. That'll work out great for any type of VA work you can come up with.
Yeah. I mean, this is probably going to be something that I'm going to be using for the video that I'm doing for Armis, being the murder story that's going to be coming.
Yeah. Yeah, that's going to be something else to see. When do you have a deadline for that coming up?
I want to at least finish this script and get a bunch of the commissions done by the end of February.
Okay, so
Those ones I at least know that I could get done because I've at least paid for them and gotten them started. The commissions
yeah,
for the background slides.
and so be ready coming up at late February or into March for keep an eye on that and see what they got going on. And I got to tell you, it's an absolute pleasure talking with you and going over these things and seeing somebody who's got such a great deal of creativity and wanting to explore that as much as possible. And I'm glad you've got this chance to do it.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming
Really.
on. We'll talk to you again soon, I hope. And folks, we have all the available links in the description for this video. Thank you so much for coming on.
Likewise.
Thank you for listening to Eric Loy Interviews. Join us again next time when we talk to another member of the always interesting VTuber community.